The AP released one of the most outrageous preseason top 25 polls of all time. Some coaches are already on the hot seat before a single snap. A few rookies are crushing it in the NFL preseason, and the Pac-12 is so back. This and much more. Welcome to Last Week in College Football. The AP has officially released its preseason top 25, with Ohio State on top. This is the first time that the Buckeyes have been first in the preseason poll since 2015, where they were the unanimous preseason number one. There are 5 different teams with first place votes, but for the first time since 2015, none of them are SEC teams. Somehow, the defending national champs are sitting in the number 6 spot, below 2 teams that don't have any first place votes at all. The Big Ten has the top 2 spots in the poll. However, the SEC has a conference high 9 teams in the preseason top 25, while the Big Ten only has 8. On another note, the Clemson Tigers are sitting just outside the top 25, falling just 5 votes short of the current number 25 Missouri Tigers. This is the first time that Clemson is unranked to start the season since 2011, and also means that Week 1 of College Game Day in Baton Rouge for Lane Kiffin's debut at LSU will not be a ranked matchup. The preseason number 13 team has finally named their starting quarterback, 5-star recruit and number 2 quarterback recruit in the 2025 class, Keelon Russel. Russell is Alabama's highest-rated quarterback signee ever and took the starting job over veteran Austin Mack. After a tight competition in camp, DeBoer finally named Russell as his guy to replace 13th overall NFL draft pick Ty Simpson. Considering this is the second year in a row that Mack has lost the job, and the fact that Alabama has 2 freshman quarterbacks coming in the 2027 class, 24/7 Sports is predicting Mack as Alabama's most likely transfer portal departure when it reopens in January. However, this is Alabama, the same program where Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa complemented each other and both went on to be star quarterbacks in the NFL. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Heisman Race has taken another turn just before the season start, with CJ Carr overtaking Arch Manning on the betting board. The Notre Dame quarterback threw for 2,741 yards and 24 touchdowns last year as a freshman starter, and is expected to be an absolute weapon for the Irish this year. After Carr and Manning, there's a pretty big gap. But then Dante Moore at Oregon and Darian Mensah at Miami are tied for 3rd in the odds right now. It's worth noting that the last time the preseason Heisman favorite went on to actually win the award was Marcus Mariota in 2014, so I'm sure it'll be fun to look back after the Heisman is given out and see if any of these guys ended up taking it or if there's another Fernando Mendoza situation for the season. The Big Ten has now won 3 straight national championships, and this year's preseason polls certainly reflect that. The conference now has the chance to do something that no one has done since the SEC's golden era in the 2000s, when the SEC won 7 straight national titles from 2006 to 2012. The question now is whether this is the start of a Big Ten dynasty that could dominate national titles for the foreseeable future, or whether this is finally the year where another conference will step up and end the streak. With the beginning of a new season, it's time to talk about coaches that could potentially be facing the hot seat early if things don't go their way. Mike Norvell at Florida State is the most obvious on the list, as he's entering the year with 4 losing seasons in his last 6. Considering the fact that Norvell led the Noles to a 13-0 regular season with an ACC title in 2023, the fall to being 3-13 in ACC play over the past 2 seasons is shocking. There were reports that people at FSU wanted Norvell gone last season, but his buyout being worth a reported $50 million would have been the largest in sports history and was a leading reason in keeping Norvell for another year. If Florida State fails to meet expectations again this year, the administration may decide the buyout is worth eating after all. Wisconsin's Luke Fickell is entering the 2026 season with as much pressure as any coach in the country after back-to-back losing seasons. The Badgers sit at 17-21 in his 3 years in Madison, but have chosen to pour more NIL investment into the roster in the offseason regardless. It'll be interesting to see where the Badgers go from here. Shane Beamer at South Carolina might have the wildest year-over-year swing of anyone on the list. After going 9-4 in a 2024 season that put them in the playoff picture, the Gamecocks collapsed to 4-8 in 2025, which is Beamer's worst finish since taking the job. On the bright side for South Carolina fans, Lenoris Sellers and Dylan Stewart decided to stay in Columbia, and along with new offensive coordinator Kendall Briles and the 19th best transfer portal class of the season, no one knows what the Gamecocks could accomplish in the 2026 season. In other news, the Pac-12 is so back. Now featuring Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State, and Texas State, alongside holdouts Oregon State and Washington State, the Reborn Conference is entering the 2026 season as the headline Group of 6 storyline, with Boise State currently being favored to chase the conference's first shot at an automatic bid for the playoffs. The new Pac-12 is being regarded by national outlets as being in a tier of its own among G6 leagues, ahead of the Mountain West, American, MAC, Conference USA, and Sun Belt. Looking at how some of the rookies are doing in the NFL preseason this year, Number 1 overall pick Fernando Mendoza had a historic preseason debut, as he became the first number 1 overall pick to throw a touchdown in his preseason debut since Baker Mayfield in 2018. He went 10 of 16 for 97 yards with 1 touchdown and had an incredible tight window throw to fellow rookie Malik Benson. Even with this performance, Mendoza hasn't pushed Kirk Cousins off the starting job according to Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak, but his performance has surpassed most people's expectations. Another rookie quarterback who has been performing better than expected is Ty Simpson at the Los Angeles Rams. After coming in for Stetson Bennett for the final 3 quarters against the Chiefs, he went 21 of 25 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. But more impressive than any of the stat lines is how calm and collected he seemed, and how good his decision-making was in tough situations. Simpson is making a pretty good case for himself to be the Rams' number 2 guy under Matthew Stafford. The most surprising performance by a rookie so far this preseason belongs to Cade Klubnik, who received snaps after Geno Smith was held out of the opener with a sore ankle. The 4th rounder went 5 of 7 for 56 yards and led the Jets to score on both of his drives. Head coach Aaron Glenn said, "Today was really a thumbs up for him," when talking about Klubnik after the game. The question is now whether Klubnik can lock down the number 2 spot over veterans Brady Cook and Bailey Zappi. I also wanted to take a moment to include my preseason predictions in this video to have them documented, so if I get them right, I have proof, and if I get them wrong, I never have to talk about it again. In the ACC Championship game, I have Clemson playing Miami with the Tigers defeating the Canes and taking a surprising conference championship home. In the Big Ten, I have Ohio State playing Lincoln Riley's USC with the preseason number 1 Buckeyes taking it home. In the Big 12, I have Texas Tech defeating BYU, which shouldn't be a shock to anyone. And in the SEC Championship game, I have Georgia versus LSU, with the Dogs taking the league for the 3rd year in a row, and Lane Kiffin's first season in Baton Rouge coming that close to winning the league. Now, I'm not going to fill out a whole playoff bracket, but I will say that I think the national championship game will bring back a rivalry that shouldn't have ever gone away. And I think that the USC Trojans will take down the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in an absolute shootout, with Heisman winner Jaden Maiava leading the Trojans all the way through the season. Man, I might regret this. Looking ahead to next week in college football, it is finally time for Week 0, which is when games finally begin and we can all stop speculating on everything and watch some actual football be played. The game that I'm looking forward to watching the most is North Carolina versus number 23 TCU in Dublin, Ireland. This game has a great storyline going into it, with Bill Belichick coming off a disappointing season that included a 48-14 loss in Chapel Hill to the Horned Frogs for his first game. This game should serve as a good indicator for the direction that the Heels season is going to go. Some other games that are worth tuning into are Memphis at UNLV, which could have early implications for the Group of 6's automatic playoff bid, NC State at Virginia, which is between 2 ACC teams but somehow is not counted as an ACC conference game, and of course San Jose State at the future national champion USC in the Coliseum. There are only 8 total games in Week 0, but after an extra long offseason, I'll take what I can get. We'll be back next week with another recap of everything that happened last week in college football. Please consider subscribing if you want to see these updates every week. Thank you for watching. Take care.